I'm going to show you today how you can make Halloween decor and you don't have to spend a bunch of money. I found this stuff either at the dump or at the thrift store. This block of wood was actually found at the dump and it just needed to be freshened up. I'm giving it a coat of my black homemade chalk paint and I'm going to ding it and notch it with my hammer to make it look old and vintage and rustic. The candle was from the thrift store and the little dish was also picked up at the thrift store. We're going to pull this all together and make some spooktacular Halloween decor. I want to give this piece of wood a really kind of grainy texture. So I've just taken some wood glue and some water, a 1-to-1 ratio, and I'm going to stir it up really well. And then I'm going to paint that whole block of wood. One of my favorite things to do when I'm DIYing is to take new or wood that just looks like it's not aged and give it a painting technique and transform it so it looks like it's 100 years old. Now I've just got some sand, and while that glue mixture is still wet, I'm sprinkling that sand into it. And this is going to give this block of wood a really Halloween vintage spooky feel. Once it's completely dry, I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to brush off all of that loose sand that's not bonded into that glue. And then I'm going to go in with a sandpaper and I'm going to distress it on the corners and the edges wherever it would have naturally aged. And this works perfect. This is a really great way to age your DIY projects really quickly and affordably. Now I'm going to seal it all up with a little bit more of that water and glue mixture, covering that whole pedestal. While we're waiting for that to dry, I made a homemade napkin. Now, I have a full tutorial on how to make homemade napkins, and this graphic is available in my Etsy store if you want to try this technique. I picked up this candle at the thrift store because it already looked spooky and Halloweenish, if that's a word, Halloweenish. And we are going to put this homemade napkin into the napkin. We're going to bond it right into the wax. I'm covering this with wax paper, making sure that the waxy side is on the inside. We're going to take our heat gun and we're going to heat up that homemade napkin until we can see the wax seep through into it, and it is going to mold right into that candle. Now this candle was 50 cents at the thrift store, and I'm so glad that I was able to upcycle it and make it spooky. We're going to peel away that wax paper, and as you can see, how fabulous is this technique. I've done this lots with napkins for every occasion and they always turn out perfect. Now let's do this blood dripping technique. These are candles that I found at the thrift store. They're just a red candle. Now you have to make sure when you're looking for red candles that it's red wax all the way through. Sometimes I just have a red coating on the outside. Or you could also use crayons. If you take a red crayon and you take the wrapper off of it, you can also do this technique too. Light your candle and then also light the red candle and just let the wax drip wherever it wants to drip. It gives that eerie Halloween feel. Let it drop along that napkin, around the back. Let it pool wherever it wants to go so you can have that natural kind of blood dripping effect. Our wooden pillar has completely dried. I love the way that it looks, but I thought it needed a little bit more. So I had these old drawer pulls. They were left outside, I think, all winter. They've got a really neat patina on them. I'm going to drill them onto the front of that wooden pillar, and it kind of gives that gothic feel. And I'm glad that I was able to use these up because otherwise I would have ended up in the dump. I'm just pressing the back of those handles into the wood so I can see where the screw hole would have been, and then just pressing them in. They fit perfect. Now I want these to be a little bit more secure, so I'm getting out my E6000. I'm going to put a little bit in each of those holes, and then put those handles in and let them dry completely. Now that yellow glass dish, I didn't want it to be yellow. I wanted it to look a little bit eerie. So I took it out and I sprayed the back of it with some black spray paint. Worked perfect. It's going to look fantastic for this DIY. Adding some E6000 onto the bottom, and then I'm going to secure it on the top of that pillar. I'm going to add a few beads of hot glue. I find that helps keep it in place so it doesn't wiggle around while the E6000 is drying. And then to finish it off, I want to add a little bit of moss around the edge of that glass dish. I'm just using some hot glue, and I had some moss that I picked up at the dollar store. Kind of finishes off that spooky feel, and I'm adding it all around the outside. I love using things from the thrift store or things that I find for free and turning them into holiday decor. I think they just look much more original, and they don't just look like it's something that you bought at the dollar store. I love the way that this turned out. I think it's really spooky, and it's going to fit in fantastic with my Halloween decor. And I did it really affordably with stuff that I already had, stuff that I found at the dump, or a few things that I just picked up at the thrift store. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. And if you love this video, I'm sure you're going to love either of these next two. Take care.